Chapter 19. Molly. Missed again! Molly wafted back to earth, her improvised net fluttering in the breeze. It's weird. Anna settled into the undergrowth a few yards away. It's like those birds know how to fly in low G. Nets are pointless, Caleb said for the dozenth time. We should just throw stuff at them. Molly frowned, watching the latest slide whistle bird flutter away uncaught. When it reached the edge of the device's range, its wing beats shifted into normal gravity flight without the slightest hitch. How did a bird know how to deal with a gravity distortion field? Get ready for heavy, Anna said, and switched off the device. Molly's stomach lurked, her feet sinking into the soft ground. She was tired, her muscles sore, and her clothes smelled like smoke. Maybe it was time to give up. But Yoshi's slide whistle bird had tasted so heavenly. The smell of it roasting by the bonfire had made everyone, except Akiko, volunteer to try it first. In the end, they'd all risked eating it together because no one wanted to wait. Molly had only allowed herself a small piece which had burnt into pieces of feather stuck to it. But after 2 days of pretzels and food bars, the taste of fresh meat was amazing. Hunger makes the best sauce, Javi had proclaimed. Though I have to say, Amashuri berries also make a pretty good sauce. It was true. Kira's red berries were tangy and crisp, like tiny bitter oranges, the perfect complement to slide whistle meat. But they'd spent the rest of the daylight trying to catch another bird and failing, and darkness had snuck up on them. The jungle around the clearing was full of mysterious noises and shadows now. Anything could be out here, watching them flail at birds. Molly wondered if they should spend the night out here protected by the bonfire, or was it safer back at the airplane? Caleb hefted his spear. Just stand back and give me space, guys. I can't miss. You already missed 4 times, Oliver said tiredly. Yeah, but I'm nailing the next one. You can't catch them without Akiko, Yoshi called. Everyone looked up at him and saw the 2 girls. They were up the hill next to the bonfire. Kira looked amused by their efforts, but Akiko was watching them with an unhappy expression, her flute silent fireside. Molly led the others back up. You said she didn't want to help. Yoshi shrugged. Another day of berries and pretzels might change her mind. Just what we need. A Pied Piper with a conscience. Molly realized that she was hungrier now than before she'd eaten her one bite of bird. One successful hunt didn't solve all of their problems. She looked at the gravity device in Anna's hand. You don't suppose one of those symbols is for bird zapping, do you? Anna's eyes lit up. You want to experiment? It was tempting, but Molly shook her head. Between taste testing alien berries and cooking a bird for the first time, she'd had enough trial and error for one day. Besides, the sun had set. She had to stay watchful. It's too dark to mess with the laws of physics. Right, and the bonfire's starting to burn down. Caleb stuck his spear into the ground and looked up into the misty sky. We've got to build it back up. This is the best time for a rescue plane to spot us. Molly rolled her eyes at Anna. Caleb saw it. I know. You still think this is another planet, one of those alien worlds that has breathable air and plenty of stuff to eat. As opposed to some hidden island full of alien wildlife? Molly asked. Where radios and compasses don't work and there's anti-gravity technology lying around? Caleb didn't answer, just gave the device in Anna's hands a dirty look. Then Oliver spoke up. What's the difference? Everyone stared at him. He stared back, his jaw set. What do you mean? Javi asked gently. You all act like that's the big question, Oliver said. Is this a planet, a spaceship, a hidden island? But whatever it is, we're here, and 500 other people aren't. So where are they? Nobody said anything, and the night noises of the jungle rushed in to fill the silence. Molly felt her hunger joined by another emptiness, an absence she had tried to crowd out of her mind with theories and conjectures. We don't, she began, but Anna interrupted, her voice emotionless. When the electricity came into the plane, it was analyzing us, testing us. It chose 8 and no one else. Okay, Oliver said. So someone brought us here. What did they do with everybody else? Isn't that the real question? The one you're all afraid to ask? He paused, his fists balled in defiance. The fire crackled in the cooling night air. Because they're all dead, he finally said. Molly shook her head, trying to ward off the words. We don't really know what you do know. You're just afraid to say it. You think I'll start freaking out and crying. Tears ran down Oliver's face, but his fists stayed clenched. And that just makes it worse. Molly stepped back from him. What does? Not talking about it. Oliver took a deep, shuddered breath. We should say something about Mr. Keating at least. I mean, he was our friend. Without him, we wouldn't even know each other. But you guys are too chicken to admit that he's dead, and you're pretending it's my fault. The team members of Killbot all looked at one another, and when Molly saw Javi's guilty expression, she knew exactly what Oliver meant. As usual, it was Anna who said the uncomfortable truth out loud. You're right. We didn't want to face it, and we used you as an excuse. Sorry, Oliver. He stared at her a moment, then nodded. Don't apologize, just say it. It's true, Javi said, looking like he'd just woken up. They're all dead, and we should say something about Mr. Keating. Molly tried to swallow the stone in her throat. This was all her fault. It had worked on the plane, distracting Javi from his fears. But when 500 people were dead, you didn't hide it with trivia questions. Of anyone, she should have known better. After Molly's father had died, her mother never talked about him until she'd gotten so good at silence that now she never talked at all. And Molly had tried to do the same thing to Oliver. I'm sorry. She took a deep breath. And I'm sorry I talked your mother into letting you come, Oliver. He managed a smile. You didn't know the plane was going to crash. Molly shrugged. Sure, it was a 1 in 10 million chance, but it was her responsibility to make it right if she could. That's what being the leader meant. Okay, she said. Mr. Keating, he was a really cool guy. He taught us how to be engineers and how to think for ourselves, and he might be gone, but he's why Team Killbot is going to make it through this. She looked at Javi, who cleared his throat. I didn't really have friends at school before you guys, he said. I used to feel sick every Sunday night because Monday morning came next, and it always felt so lonely. But now I look forward to school. I have Mr. Keating to thank for that. Oliver spoke up next. His voice was at the edge of breaking, and it sounded like he'd said the lines already 100 times in his head. He showed me that math can make robots. Before that, I thought I was totally uncool. Now I'm not so sure. Oliver looked like he wanted to say more, but his tears were running freely now. Molly glanced at Anna, hoping she didn't feel forced to speak. Sharing really wasn't her strong point, especially at moments like this when it was easy to say the wrong thing. But Anna took a breath. He let me be the way I am. He made it a puzzle to be solved instead of something wrong with me. Molly swallowed, letting the noises of the jungle fill the clearing for a while. Finally, she knuckled away the tear rolling down her own cheek and faced Caleb. He was turned toward the airplane looking embarrassed and bored. But this had to be hard for him, with no friends in this strange place. Maybe it was time to let him contribute. Part of Molly hoped he was right and she was wrong, so maybe they could all still get home. Do you really think this is Earth? She asked. Of course it's Earth, Caleb said, still not looking at the rest of them. We aren't freezing to death or boiling away, and no one's ever discovered an exoplanet the right distance from its sun to support human life. Molly blinked. An exoplanet? That's a planet in another solar system. I know what it means, but since when did you get all Mr. Science? Caleb snorted. Since I got my first telescope when I was 10, playing with toy robots doesn't make you the only people who know stuff. A few rejoinders went through Molly's head. That the Killbots weren't toys any more than the robots that diffused bombs or built cars or rescued people after earthquakes were. But she found herself with a smidgen of newfound respect for Caleb. She looked at the others. They were all listening, happy to replace grief with something else to think about. Anything else. So, you know astronomy, she said. If you saw the stars, could you figure out if we were on Earth or not? That's easy. I could tell you where we are on Earth, or at least the latitude. He looked up, but the mist makes it impossible. What if we got you above the mist? Molly asked with a smile. Caleb's eyes widened. You mean with that gravity thing? Flying is the bomb, Anna said. Caleb didn't answer for a moment. You can help us figure out where we are, she said. He finally let out a sigh. Okay, I'll fly up and check out the stars, but only if you help me build the fire back up first, just in case we aren't on an alien planet and there are people looking for us. It keeps the bugs away, Molly said with a shrug. Then she realized that she was doing it again, keeping the truth from the others when they needed to know what was going on if they were going to survive. It probably keeps the monsters away too, she added softly. Let's stroke the fire.